Call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, March 8th of 2022. This is the Stoughton City Council, and we'll start out with the roll call.
Okay, Caravello.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Doom.
Here.
Hiley.
Here.
Hirsch.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Mayaski.
Here.
Reeves.
Here.
Schumacher.
Here.
Venegas.
Here.
Tukalski.
Here.
Okay, and I have Lagaki and Hunt absent and excused tonight, so we have 10 alders present.
All right, thank you, Candy. The
Thank you.
minutes and reports are in the packet. And for public comment, we do have one person that signed up to speak, and that would be Lawrence. It sounds like a familiar face. You have 3 minutes.
Hi again. Can everyone hear me well?
We can.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak once again. As a reminder, for those who may not recognize me, I'm Lawrence Canez, the representative from the local nonprofit Dame for Dogs. I joined the February 22nd City Council meeting just a few weeks ago. We appreciate your consideration in passing Ordinance 5/2022, which prevents a facility from setting up a location in Stoughton that breeds cats and dogs for the purpose of painful experimentation, more commonly known as puppy mills. In summary, it is in the best interest of Stoughton's residents and business owners to have this ordinance in place, just like many other local communities have done so far, to prevent a nuisance puppy mill from moving into your neighborhoods, which would likely result in decreased property values and a whole host of other problems. We have seen all the hassle and legal battles that the community of Spring Green has gone through over the last few years, and now, because they did not have this ordinance in place, they are being required to issue a use permit for a puppy mill to exist in a residential neighborhood, even though we saw many neighbors speak out in grave opposition to it in so many boardroom and in so many board meetings, night after night after night. Thank you for your time and consideration of passing Ordinance 5/2022, and of course, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you. And that's all we had for public comment tonight. Next item is communications and presentations. Are there any communications from council members? President Hirsch.
Yeah, I guess I would like to thank all the first responders and utilities and the community of Stoughton that came together after our exciting weather event on Saturday night. And I think this is why we love our community, because you guys all work together, and utilities and our utilities that came from other communities really rock and got our electricity up pretty quickly. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Are there any other communications? All right, hearing none. We do have some presentations, and I'll start out. I do have a proclamation, and it looks like Rachel Foldy is here with us tonight. Hi, Rachel. And the proclamation goes like this. Whereas the Girl Scout Gold Award is the highest award a Girl Scout can achieve and prove its holder has completed a project that has a measurable and sustainable impact on her community. And whereas a Gold Award Girl Scout tackles an issue that is dear to her by addressing a need and designing a solution, completing a project, and inspiring others to sustain it. And whereas the Gold Award is the mark of a truly remarkable proof that not only can girls make a difference, but they already have. And whereas the Girl Scout Award serves as a key to open doors to scholarships, preferred admission tracks for college, and amazing career opportunities. And whereas Rachel Foldy, a member of the Girl Scout Troop 2301, has completed the Girl Scout Gold Award Pollinator Garden, Rachel describes her project as, "My project was built to help the pollinator population grow, specifically the monarch butterflies. I needed to weed the entire area, after which I planted 100 daffodil bulbs, 50 tulip bulbs, 30 allium bulbs, Shasta daisies, and 5 different varieties of milkweed, which is the host plant for the monarch butterflies to lay their eggs and caterpillars eat. I also planted fennel and parsley, where swallowtail butterflies will lay their eggs and eat from. We also planted chives, 2 mums, butterfly weed, and an aster. I also made identification tags for each of the plants by scanning the packet. The seeds, bulbs came in, and trimming accordingly. I used a hot laminator and a small lamination pockets, and finally used clear packaging tape to adhere to the 13-inch plastic identification sticks. I also laminated 2 versions of the monarch butterfly life cycle and posted those on 4x4 corner posts. Now, therefore, I, Tim Swadley, Mayor of Stoughton, Wisconsin, do hereby applaud Rachel Fuldy for her efforts and achievement, and I declare April 9th, 2022 as Gold Award Girl Scout Rachel Fuldy Day. Congratulations. Anything you want to say, Rachel?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks for being here.
Perfect. I am so honored to have my Gold Award project recognized in this way. Many hours went into building the pollinator garden at Nazareth Health and Rehabilitation Center. It means so much to me that the garden I am so passionate about also resonates to others. This accomplishment is not something I did alone. I had support from Stoughton Girl Scouts, Nazareth, friends, and family. I would like to thank my advisor, Kevin Shore, who let my ideas come to life so this project was possible. I would also like to thank my little sister, Ruth. You helped the most with the physical work like weeding and planting. It meant a lot to me that you sacrificed 2 weeks of your summer to help this project. And last but not least, I would like to thank my mom, Sue Fuldy. Thank you for always making me your priority, for never giving up on me, and for pushing me to do my very best. You were an immense help during the entire project. Thank you for everything you do. I am looking forward to watching the garden grow to help sustain pollinators for years to come. I am so appreciative of everyone who has helped me through my Girl Scout career. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we do have a presentation. Is Olivia Perry, did she call in? Oh, she's here. All right, you're going to be up next. So Rodney's going to cue you up on the screen here. And then the microphone is right there. And when you're ready to go, you can start your presentation. Thanks for being here again tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I also have it in my pocket, too. Presentation? Yep, that's fine. Should I wait? I don't know where the mayor went. Is it okay?
There you
Okay. Hi again, my name is Olivia Perry, and I'm a senior planner in the Dane County Planning and Development Department. Again, thank you, Mayor, so much for inviting me, and it's really great to be here. Tonight, I'm here to talk about the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy, taking the next step. It's a new initiative by Dane County, and I'm going to provide some background, up or down, there we go. I'm first going to provide some background on what workforce and affordable housing is, and then I'm going to provide a little program background to how we got here and why are we pursuing a regional housing strategy with an overview and a timeline, and then opportunities to partner. For those of you who are familiar with what workforce and affordable housing is,
And I will tell you, I'll use those terms interchangeably throughout the presentation, but they mean the same thing. They're just sort of a varying degree. They span housing for folks who are up to 60% and even 80% of the area median income. So what is workforce housing? Housing that costs no more than 30% of your monthly income. And for a renter, that's the housing costs are rent and utilities. For a homeowner, it is mortgage, rent, utilities, taxes, and insurance. You are considered cost burdened if your household spends more than 30% of their income on housing. You're considered extremely cost burdened if your household spends more than 50% of their income on housing. So this is just an example of how WIDA, the state housing agency, defines what rents people at various income levels have to pay. If you look in the first column, that's for a single person. That's one housing unit for someone who's 50% of the area median income. They're making $36,100, and according to WIDA, an affordable place for them to rent would be $902. The second column, you can see a family of two making 60% of the area median income, almost $50,000. What would be affordable to them, that's rent and utilities, is $1,160. That's just an example of how it's structured in Wisconsin. So who needs affordable housing? Small businesses and large employers, local governments, school districts, police and fire, child care and elder care. I'm hearing a lot about that as I go around the county and make these presentations. That's an issue for communities. Hardware store, grocery store, the average small businesses and communities, auto repair, auto parts, retail, big box, hair salons, restaurants, all the kind of amenities that we need to kind of function through our daily lives. And then, of course, construction workers, the people who are painting the buildings, the people who are laying the carpets, drywalling, roofing, etc. Who are the resident groups that need workforce housing? Senior citizens, aging in place. That's another thing I hear a lot about, aging in place. How can I stay here, but I can't live in or afford my big house? And I'd like to, how can I age in place in an affordable place? Retirees, young families and the disabled, veterans, young adults starting their careers. So what are the sources and types of workforce housing? You have new multifamily mixed income housing. They're called tax credit projects, like tax credit projects, although not all of them are tax credit projects. It combines market rate and below market rate rents. Rehab, existing single family and multifamily housing is affordable. Habitat for Humanity, which I know you have a development being developed here in Stoughton. I actually volunteered on it a few months ago before it got really cold in November. And Community Land Trust housing. Dane County Housing Authority developments. They also have housing vouchers. You hear about housing vouchers. Those are vouchers that people can take to a landlord or a management company and only pay 30% of what they're making in income. Other sources include, as I said, Habitat for Humanity, community land trusts, and alternative housing models. These are some of the alternative housing models that are sort of being talked about nationally as well as locally. They include accessory dwelling units. That's either an attached sort of apartment to your home or a separate cottage that could be in the backyard. Cooperative housing, that's multiple people sharing the same home and having different bedrooms, but sharing a living room and a kitchen space. There are a lot of cooperative housing developments or homes in Madison. Co-housing, that's where they're separate housing units, but they again they all have their own kitchen and bathroom and all of that, but there's a shared common space, there's a shared kitchen, there's a shared living area, and they sort of participate in community activities. Pocket neighborhoods are kind of like mini subdivisions. Those are typically 1,000 square feet or less, clustered very close together, typically with rear entries to the homes. Small format housing, 1,500 square feet or less, and then tiny homes. Tiny homes might not be as viable as the others, but that's something that people are talking about. and considering. So what's the difference between market rate and workforce and affordable housing in a multifamily development? Which costs more? They actually have the same labor costs, the same cost of materials, and the same construction, so they cost the same, whether it's a market rate. Unless you're talking about a high-end market rate development, building the building has the same costs. The main difference is that with market rate, you only need 15 to 30% of equity to develop it, and it comes online in maybe a couple of years. With the affordable or workforce development, you need 60% or more equity, which is sort of where municipalities come in with helping provide gap financing or land or other incentives. So, the regional housing strategy background. There are 3 programs, or there are a few programs that we have at the county that have sort of led up to this, and the kind of momentum that we have now for moving forward. That's the Dane County Housing Initiative, the Dane County Affordable Housing Fund, and Dane County Housing Access and Affordability. They provide homeless and supportive services, CDBG and home, and gap financing, rehab, and down payment assistance. So the Dane County Housing Initiative, the project I manage, we started that in 2015. It's a public-private partnership of residents, elected officials, local government staff, financial institutions, housing developers, nonprofit housing agencies, and interested stakeholders. What we do, we've developed over the last 7 years a very robust network of information, resources, and partners, and facilitate communication and learning, and help build strategies to expand housing opportunities in Dane County. How do we do that? We had 5 housing summits. I don't know, raise your hand if you've ever been to a Dane County Housing Summit. Okay. Those stopped in 2019 due to the pandemic, but we have done webinars since then, educational webinars. We have a Dane County Housing website. We also have an educational video, Minding the Gap, the housing crisis in Dane County. It's a great primer, a little bit more detailed than I gave you just a few minutes ago, if you're interested in learning more about what actually affordable housing and workforce housing is. So when we how? Oh yes, we have monthly steering committee meetings that you're welcome to attend, and I provide technical assistance to communities and nonprofit agencies, social service agencies and chambers around affordable housing. And we have research and fact sheets, and maybe many of you might have heard of the housing needs assessment that we did, Kurt Paulson did, 2015 and a 2019 update. So when we started, there were 3 municipalities working to engage or work on affordable housing. Now there are 14, including Stoughton, who is pursuing affordable housing. It's a huge jump in just 7 years. These are the municipal housing planning activities, and by planning activities, I mean these are the municipalities in Dane County who have so far pursued creating their own individual housing study or housing plan. Sun Prairie and Cottage Grove will be completing theirs this spring, so those will be out this spring. So that I think is that's 8 municipalities in Dane County now have their own individual housing plan or housing study. That Dane County Affordable Housing Fund, when we started in 2015, I think it was $1.5 million. It's been raised each year, our annual allocation. It provides gap financing to developers to help offset the cost so they can bring down, to fill that equity pile that I showed you that helps bring down the cost of the rents so they can pass it on to the tenants. Since we started in 2015, we've created 2,313 low to moderate income units in all the communities that you see listed, with a 30-year affordability rate, and to the tune of $31.7 million. This year we're going to be providing $6 million. $6 million seems to be kind of, last year there was a big bump, but this year it's going to be $6 million. I think the county's $6 million, and I think the city's around $6 or $7 million for gap financing. So we have ongoing challenges, however. We've done a lot of great work, big advancement, but the ongoing challenges, let's look at some numbers real quick. So there are 15,400 renters in Dane County who are at 50% of the area median income, or that are paying more than 50% of their income on housing. So they're extremely cost burdened. There are 6,065 homeowners who are 50% of the area median income and below, who are paying more than 50% of their income on housing. That's 21,465 households that are extremely cost burdened in Dane County. at 50% or below. So if you consider how many units we created in 2019 between the city and the county, we gave $11,825,000 for gap financing. We created 578 units, which was great. However, if you divide that by the number of units we needed just of the renters, it's going to take 26.6 years to fill that housing gap, that housing supply gap. That doesn't include the additional almost 8,000 LMI, low to moderate income units we're going to add over the next 20 years. And if we disperse those evenly out over the next 20 years, we have to add another 400 per year on top of that to close the renter housing gap for 26.6 years. And that's just the renters, not the homeowners. So according to DPI's latest statistics, we have 1,865 homeless children and youth in the Dane County school districts. And we have, from 2006 to 2017, we underproduced more than 11,000 housing units relative to growth. This next slide is one I like to share because it talks about the time sort of around when I was born in 1965. The income to housing price, is about 35% in 1965. Now it's about 20%. 68,703 is the median income, and 334,700 is the median home price. So that's about 20% of the median home price. Back when I was born, the average first-time home buyer was 22 or 23. Now they're 33, and that number keeps going up. So, why a regional housing strategy? Why now? Laid out some of the reasons, but just to be a little bit more explicit. To capture the interest and momentum of municipal and private sector stakeholders. There's been a lot of interest, a lot of momentum. As you can see, 14 communities now engaged in this work around the county. Really to acknowledge also and assess and build on the existing efforts. Everyone's doing something, and in many ways you're doing a lot of the same things, but in many ways you're doing different things, or you're coming at the same thing from a different perspective. And so it's an attempt to acknowledge and assess and build on existing efforts. And the overall goal of the regional housing strategy is really to help expedite the development and preservation of workforce and affordable housing. So it's also an opportunity for municipalities and stakeholders to come together and assess and understand the housing from a regional perspective, the housing shortage from a regional perspective. It will be an inclusive learning process where all communities and stakeholders are welcome, no matter their size, knowledge, or background. The regional housing strategy recognizes each community is different in size and wants to maintain its own unique character. Recognize that each community has varying levels of capacity. Some people have planning staff, some people don't. Some people have multiple planning staff. Emphasize discussion and exploration, collaboration, and relationship building. And the regional housing strategy will explicitly not duplicate, replace, or interfere with local housing efforts, but seeks to build on and leverage the efforts wherever possible. So it's going to be overseen by the Regional Housing Strategy Advisory Committee, mayors, city mayors, presidents, town chairs, plan commission members, banks, employers, chambers will be invited to participate, as well as our regional stakeholders like MadRep and the Urban League and developers, school districts, local leaders, business owners, certainly employers, and other key regional stakeholders. The Dane County role, our role is, well, we've provided most of the funding for the project, conduct municipal outreach, hiring support staff, planning consultant, managing the overall and coordinating the overall effort. So the focus of the regional housing strategy will be for folks who are 60% of the area median income and below, up to 80%, the most vulnerable below 30%, and then the missing middle, 80% to 120% of the area median income. These are the components of the regional housing strategy. Facilitation, we've taken some extra, made an extra effort to identify an expert meeting facilitator, so the experience can be engaging, thought-provoking. There's a lot of time for networking and getting to know people, getting to know each other. There's going to be the housing study, program evaluation, We're going to look at all the programs, inventory all the programs that, and sort of tools that you all are using throughout the, throughout the county, and then look at those and develop best practices and identify current innovations, and then identify gaps in programming, partnerships, communication, and coordination. The Regional Housing Strategy Advisory Committee will develop a vision for housing for the next 10 to 20 years, strategy recommendations, and then it will all culminate into a future of housing guide. Possible outcomes. So break down silos learned together across municipalities, agencies, and organizations, potentially increase collaboration, coordination, and communication. Develop a shared baseline of data and information to help inform local policies, planning, and benchmark progress. Comprehensive toolkit of best practices, as I mentioned, and best policies, resources and alternatives to housing, municipal level tools, evaluation and ways to measure progress. Possible recommendations. So these are possible recommendations that you might come up with, or the advisory committee might come up with. It can include partner with the private sector to help fund a countywide marketing and education campaign for affordable housing and workforce housing. To help educate residents about the housing shortage and solutions. Maybe partner with the private sector to help fund or increase the number of single-family, multifamily units that are rehabbed, or energy upgrades by 40 units a year in city, towns, and villages, or perhaps down payment assistance opportunities for residents of color. Hold an annual workshop for Plan Commission members, local officials, or on affordable workforce housing. Increase the number of independent senior housing units by 350 over the next 5 years. That's a big issue that I hear a lot about, affordable senior housing. Increase the number of workforce and affordable housing units by 15 to 20% a year over the next 5 to 10 years by updating zoning codes to allow for increased density or multifamily or a variety of housing types and subdivisions. Support aging in place and allow accessory dwelling units, add cooperative housing, or alternative housing types to local housing stock in each municipality. Right, and that's so that's just some of the recommendations, and there's some more examples, and go into a little bit more detail in the fact sheet that I gave you. So this is the timeline. We're coming up here on March 16th. The RFP, the proposals from the consultants are due. We are going to be sending out invitations to join the advisory committee at the end of this month, the next couple of weeks, and then we plan to kick off on May 25th at the Alliant Energy Center from 6:30 to 8:30. So this is your formal invitation to participate. You don't have to answer me now. I'm going to send actually a letter to the mayor, but this is an invitation for you to participate and be part of this effort. We've had a lot of good response and feedback so far. And it's really going to be a cross-sector of diverse stakeholders. The majority of folks will probably be municipalities. We're inviting each municipality to bring up to 2 people, so the highest elected official can suggest can come, or they can have a representative, and then perhaps someone from planning staff or plan commission or a resident that or whoever they would feel fit. But municipalities are being, cities, towns, and villages are being invited, and they're all being invited to bring up to 2 people. And then the rest will be filled by stakeholders. So we're thinking about a committee that might be around 50 or 60, but we will be meeting in the Alliant Energy Center. And as I said, we are having, we've made special effort to, in the RFP, to include a professional meeting facilitator, a team. It'll probably take a number of people, of course, and it will also be supported by Dane County staff, including myself and the department director. So these are some of the people who've shown interest, expressed initial interest in participating. Dane County Cities and Villages, and then the people on the right are actually people who've sponsored, signed up to partner sponsor. You're also welcome to sponsor if you'd like. It's the fact sheet. It's information on the fact sheet about how to become a sponsor is on the back of your fact sheet. And yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. A lot of information. Any questions for Olivia?
Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah.
If I could.
Oh,
Greg has a
Alderperson
question.
Jensen has a question.
Back on one of the slides earlier, obviously, you had an email or not an email, a website, Dane Housing, and I didn't catch the rest of that.
Greg, you need a mic.
I'll send it to you.
Dane Housing, yeah, at count, yeah,
I'll send it to you, Greg.
Okay.
I don't remember off the
you.
top of my head.
All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Uh, All right, next item is, I put together some slides to kind of follow up on Olivia's, and she stole some of my thunder, so I'm going to skip some of those slides, but that's okay for the sake of efficiency. And what I tried to do is just kind of highlight what's going on here in Stoughton. I do have some county numbers. You might recall some of these from last year when I did the presentation, but you can kind of see what our growth rate has been in Dane County and in Stoughton and what it's projected to do. And the interesting thing for me is, the fact that almost 48% of our population came between 1978 and the year 2000. And since then, we've had little growth, but I think that's kind of interesting. And you can see in Dane County, the population continues to rise and is projected to do so. The other side of that story is, even though the population is rising in Dane County, you can see that the housing starts are about half of what they were back in the early 2000s. And I think that really demonstrates what Olivia was saying as far as the shortage of homes here in Dane County. As our population grows, the housing hasn't kept up with it. In Stoughton, you might recall we do a comprehensive plan every 10 years. Our last one was done in 2017. This is a slide I put up last year, and I did have some follow-up questions for the consultants based on this slide. And basically, at that time on the survey, we only had 433 responses to this question, which is only 3% of the population. And ideally, when you do a survey like this, you like to see 10%. So I found that really concerning that during our last comprehensive plan survey, that the participation rate was so low. So these numbers probably aren't as beneficial as maybe they could be if we had, at least 10% participation rate. And really the follow-up question was, what does this chart mean? And really what it means that 28% of the people wanted to see 10% growth. And then you can see the other numbers. And when I followed up with the consultants, they said you can't really combine and say that, for example, if you took 14%, 25%, and 28%, it's not fair to say that 67% wanted 10% growth or less. And on the other hand, you can't say, 58% wanted 10% growth or higher. The number is what it was. They really didn't delineate what those numbers meant, which, I think that in the future, if they're going to do a survey, we need better information than this. And that's kind of described here. This is the email I had going back and forth with them to follow up on that question. I think that Olivia kind of covered a little bit on the affordable housing. I did include our demographics in here just so you can kind of see what our breakdown is in the census here in Stoughton of what that looks like. And then also the area medium income, and that was covered during the Olivia slides as well. And I can send a PowerPoint out if you wish. But it basically just kind of reinforces what she was saying as far as the number of people that are, paying more than 30% of their income toward their housing. I mean, the good news in Stoughton is, compared to other Dane County areas, our rent tends to be lower, but so is our income. So proportionately, we're still on a higher end, and the same thing for our housing. Oops. This one here shows our population history. And as I mentioned, most of it occurred, and really kind of peaked out around 2000, before 2010. And you can kind of see on the right-hand slide, I broke it down by year. Some of them are estimates based on the census, but you can see that for some reason 2020 didn't show up, but that's the 13,078. So we've had very limited growth the past few years, and that's really because we've had a combination of an aging population and families having less children. And you can see that even in our housing starts. Some of this information is information that we have available on our website. We have an annual report that our planning department does. Desi in there does a really excellent job of compiling the data. And you can see when you go back to the early 2000s, we were doing 44 or 50 single-family homes. And then that kind of tailed off, especially when we got to the recession. And, 2009, we only had one new single-family home, actually only one housing project the whole year. And you can see in the last couple of years, that number is, between 17 and 20. We anticipate that there's going to be more in the next few years. This chart here just kind of breaks down how many children you can expect based on the type of home you have, whether it's single family, residential, or multi-unit. And then this one here actually breaks down the multi-unit ones. And then what I do is, you can see on here that actually the 3-bedroom multi-unit produces more school-aged children than the 1 or 2 bedrooms. So I'm encouraged, especially with the Brink project on the riverfront, that there's potential. There could be some families moving in there because many of those units are going to be 3 bedrooms. And when you put that all together, you get to this chart here. Oh, where'd it go? Skipped right over it. Here we go. So what I did on the spreadsheet here is I just kind of broke down what I would say we have in the pipeline. Now this also includes 51 West, which isn't fully approved yet, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later tonight. But it breaks down the units that are in Kettle Park West, and those projections are based on what we had in the TIF agreement. Now the numbers in the years that they're built may change depending on the builder and the market, but overall the numbers are pretty much what they're going to be. And then the multi-unit ones are some of it would be 51 West, and some of it would be Brink's project as well, as it's broken down there. And you can kind of see when you go to total number of units, and it breaks down by single family. And then based on that, you can project out how many students per single family, how many per duplex, and how many for multi-unit. And you can tally it all up. So based on what I consider we have in the pipeline here, let me get back to it. Too much technology going on in here. That's not it. All right, when we get back to it, so based on what we have in the pipeline, I would anticipate that we'll grow, right around 2,463 in our population. Basically by whatever we have projected out to 2028, which equates to about 200 students for the school district. And that's under a 2% growth per year. And then why that's important to us is our net new construction, which is the formula the state uses for our spending limits or our spending cap, is based on our net new construction. So you can kind of see that we're close to the state average, but we're running behind in the county compared to other municipalities in our growth. And then this is what's going on in the school district. And you can kind of see that when you start in kindergarten in 2021, there's 173 incoming kindergartners, but the graduating class is 210. And that's been the trend the last several years, is that the incoming kindergartners are smaller class sizes than the outgoing senior class at the high school. And that's really what's equating into the declining enrollment in our school districts. And here's another illustration of that. And you can see that even the school district is projecting, and they use a model that is based on birth rates and also based on kindergartners advancing through the different grades. And they're projecting that their enrollment will continue to decline. Now, I don't believe that factors in the potential growth that we have in the pipeline. But, you know, you put that together and it's about a net zero when you get out to 2024. Which might be welcome relief for the school district, at least won't be declining. And the reason that's important to the school district is because their state aid, one of the major parts of their funding formula is their enrollment. They get so many dollars per students, and when the enrollment is down, so is their revenue, and that really cuts into their programming. And then the other thing is, in the last budget here, there wasn't any new allocations per student, so they weren't really even keeping the cost of living up as far as the additional allocation from the state. Here's what we have kind of going on in our local developments. This obviously is, you've seen a million times now, this is Kettle Park West Phase 2, and we anticipate that they'll be pulling permits here any time to start that project. This is the 51 West that we've been talking about and we'll be working on. And you might note that on the west side here, there is that workforce housing component, and there's approximately 73 units that they're looking at doing. They've applied for the WIDA grants. There's a 4% and a 9%. We should find out hopefully sometime in April whether or not they've been awarded the grant and they can move forward on that workforce housing component. This is one we received fairly recently. I think some of the committees have seen this, Park and Rec, and also the Plan Commission took a look at this. And this is the one that we call the, formerly the Tigan Farm. So this is down on Acker Road in Taylor Lane, kind of where 4th Street ends in the city limits, and it goes into Dunkirk. So this is kind of the concept plan. These are planned on being what we would consider more single family or starter homes, but even with that, you know, the price points on starter homes are above $300,000 right now, which is really expensive. So we're looking to utilize some TIF funds that we had set away a few years ago as part of a TIF extension program that the state has. So we actually have some money available that people might be able to use for down payment assistance, and we're hoping to get some buy-in from some of our local employers too, in order to try to get some of their employees into some affordable housing. And then this one here is a Stonecrest subdivision, and this is kind of off a racetrack road. And this one here we anticipate would go in phases. And these developers are all kind of doing their due diligence at this point, trying to, you know, do the costing on the stormwater and the utilities work that would be required in order to support these developments. We've done some internal conversations, and some of these plans have been modified to reflect some of the feedback from staff and also from some of the committees to get us to this point. The last one here is just kind of what's going on in the TIF world right now, and you can kind of see that the TIFs right now, most of the requests are coming in category 6 here, which is a mixed use. So that would be similar to Kettle Park West, where you have some commercial and some residential. You know, the residential itself isn't really eligible for TIF. It has to have a certain amount of land available to meet the requirements. So you can kind of see that about half of all the TIF creations in 2021 were in mixed use areas. Typically you see it quite a bit in blighted areas or redevelopment or rehab areas similar to our riverfront redevelopment area. And that's all I had. Thanks for bearing with the technology here. Do you have any questions for me?
Mayor, can you make that presentation, can you amend the packet to have that in there? I don't
Yeah,
think it was.
I sure can. Yep, I can do that. I think that's what we did last year as well. Any other questions? All right, I'll log out of that and I'll get a screen up here that'll hopefully stay up here. So back to the agenda here. The first item we have on here would be our consent agenda. And it looks like we have some minutes and some liquor license. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hurst, a second by Reeves. Would anybody like anything acted on separately in the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Okay. And what I'd like to do at this time is I'm going to want to move up item number 16 and then followed by item number 22 after that, so I can accommodate our guest here. So item number 16, let me pull it up here, is coming from the Public Safety Committee.
Put me on the spot right away.
Yeah, I did. I'm going to put it up here for you, though. Alderperson Jensen.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. See, Resolution 47 of 2022 is authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve a special event license to race day events for the Sittendamai Classic Run Walk on May 14th, 2022. Public Safety recommends approval on a 6-0 vote, and I would recommend approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Jensen?
Yep, we have a guest here who, if you have any questions, I'm sure she can answer it. It's something that we do every year and have been doing for probably, 50 years?
Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your event.
Absolutely. So my name is Bianca Hansen. I also live in Stoughton, but work in Fitchburg at Race Day Events, and am planning the Sittendamai Classic Run Walk. It is the 50th year for the 20-mile walk. Subsequently, we have the 17-mile and 10-mile walk, as well as the Little Kids Run in Stoughton here, held on May 14th, starting at the Badger Rock Middle School for the 20-mile and 17-mile, and at the 10-mile going through the town of Dunn Burying Ground, where it's been for several years, kind of a tradition. Through the walk and runs, we are planning on handing out medals, having a Delta Beer Lab beer coupon kind of for the first year as a way to celebrate the 50th anniversary, as well as shirts and finisher food. Located at the Mant Park will be the finish line, finish area, where we'll have EMS, EMT, medical services, the t-shirts, as we're going back to the tradition of when you finish at the race, you'll be getting your shirt at the end versus a packet pickup. And then doing overall awards, we'll be celebrating the fastest Stoughton male and female, as well as several age groups, and overall male and female will receive authentic hand-painted Norwegian chests and Norwegian platelets as well that are made here in Stoughton. We will also have bus service and shuttles available for participants, and it'll be a fun day for family and friends.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions?
Looks fun.
Thanks.
All right. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. All right,
Thank you.
okay. Is Ryan on here? Let's see. Yes, he is. Okay, next item we're going to move up is item number 22. And this is the one that was at Finance Committee earlier tonight. So this would be Alderperson Schumacher.
All right, R53 2022 is the assessment for 501 East Main Street here in Stoughton, and we have decided in committee to accept the claim of excessive assessment, and I would so move.
Second.
And a second by Alderperson Reeves. Alderperson Schumacher.
This was Joanne Grassman, the property owner on that one, had purchased the building, and the initial assessment on that was at $137,000. The reassessment afterward was $375,000. So she was looking to get that adjusted back to the $137,000. There was a communication error, maybe oversight on between the property exchange there. So in reviewing all of this, we found that it's acceptable to take the excessive assessment claim, and that would end up as a tax refund for the property owner of $4,276.52.
All right, thank you. And we do have one of Matt's associates on here if you have any questions for Ryan. And I think Joanne was on here as well. But are there any initial questions or?
I was just going to mention that it did go to finance at a previous meeting, but we wanted to just run it through the attorney, just, to make sure that if there were things that we needed to be aware of. So that's one of the, and because it's time sensitive, that's why it's went directly from finance to the council. But we did have an opportunity to act on it sooner, but we felt that it would make sense to speak with the attorney first, so.
Anything you want to add, Ryan, as long as we have you on here?
No, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't have anything to add at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I think what made it time sensitive is there's something in the state statute. We only have 90 days to make a decision on this. So by the time we received the request and got it on there at the first finance committee meeting and brought it back, we figured we'd just act on it tonight, and then we don't have to worry about, keeping track of that. So that's kind of where we're at. One last time for questions on this one. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. All right, thank you. We'll go back to item number 6. And item number 6 is coming from second reading from the Landmarks Commission. Alderperson Legacy's not here. Alderperson Majewski, would you like to take this one? I know you love landmarks.
I'll find it first. Hold on.
It's on the screen if you
Find
can't
it?
see it.
I got it.
Okay.
Let's see.
6.
I know. You caught me off guard. Sorry.
Okay.
What is this?
Ordinance 4.
Yeah. Hang on a sec. Do something. It says Ordinance 4 of 2022, ordinance amendment to section 38-33, composition and terms from Landmarks Commission, which recommends approval unanimously on 2/10 of 2022. This is a second reading, so I there move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Hirsch. And this one, as you might recall, basically the Landmarks had requested that they have an opportunity to help make a recommendation similar to the library board for the appointments for their group. There's criteria that they're looking for in their membership, somebody that might have some historical preservation or other relevant experience. So you can kind of see where they scratched some language and added some other things in there, but that's kind of the gist of it. Are there any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. All right, next motion would be coming from the Plan Commission, Alderperson Caravello.
Yes, thank you. This is Ordinance 5 of 2022, creating Section 6-16 of the Stoughton Municipal Code, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Reeves. Alderperson Caravello?
And this is in regards to the breeding or possession of cats or dogs for research or experimentation, prohibiting that. And as our speaker, our guest spoke at the beginning of the meeting, just a good idea to get ahead of this, I think, just before it would potentially, if it were to potentially become a situation like what Spring Green had. If we pass this, we can avoid that.
All right, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in the favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? That motion carries. All right, next one also comes from the Plan Commission, Alderperson Caravello.
And this one is Ordinance 6 of 2022, amending zoning code section 78-904 of the Stoughton Municipal Code, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Schumacher. Alderperson Caravello.
And this is, as we spoke of at last meeting, this is updating some language in this code, and basically if anybody has any further questions than they had at last meeting, Rodney is here to clear anything up with any questions, I think.
Any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. All right, thank you. Next item is also Alderperson Caravello.
Yes, this is Ordinance 7 of 2022, amending section 78-920, parentheses 3, parentheses C, of the Stoughton Municipal Code relating to the cost of abating zoning violations, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Caravello.
And once again, this is a second reading, so once again, any questions or clarifications, I'm sure Rodney would be able to do that if anybody has any questions.
Well, I will say you're going to be seeing another ordinance soon that's going to repeal this whole section. That one's not on yet tonight, though. Is that right, Rodney?
No.
Yeah. So this is some minor language cleanup. I think I'd be happy to answer any questions about it. I think adopting it tonight is appropriate. But as I said, as we've worked through this process, I've come to the conclusion that we should essentially repeal the abatement provisions that are currently in the zoning code and address those issues all in Chapter 58, which deals in a more holistic way with nuisance abatement generally. So you'll be seeing more of this soon.
All right, any questions on this particular ordinance? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. One last time, Alderperson Caravello.
And this one is Ordinance 8 of 2022, approving a general development plan for Lot 18 within the 51 West development, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Caravello.
And this is to rezone a lot out at the 51 West development so that this particular section of that project can move forward. And once again with this one, if there's any questions other than from last meeting, I'm sure Rodney could tackle that.
Any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next item, looks like it came out of Finance Committee. Alderperson Schumacher.
All right, R 2022, authorizing and directing the Director of Planning and Development to prepare and submit a Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources grant for runoff management, also known as the hydrodynamic separator. I so move.
Second.
Second by President Hirsch. Alderperson Schumacher.
Surface and waste, not wastewater, surface water cleanup. This would be for, in the riverfront development area, is that correct? Toward the eastern end of that development, is that right?
Actually, on the western edge, closer
Western
to.
edge, okay.
If you'd like just a quick overview, this is a pretty exciting opportunity for a grant application. It's going to be able to be installed in the riverfront redevelopment area just south of the Wagon Works Way Street, not far from off of 4th Street, but essentially behind the power plant, which will actually clarify stormwater discharge before it gets to the Hara River. More than just the riverfront redevelopment, there's a drainage basin that actually encompasses where we're sitting now and works its way down through this system as well. So we're pretty excited about the opportunity. If we're successful, and we think we've got a very good application, a very little actually out-of-pocket money for the city stormwater utility to fund, hopes to be down in the neighborhood of about $25,000 for our local participation if we're successful on the grant applications.
And the
All right.
total cost?
About $300,000.
That's huge.
Excellent. Any questions or comments on this one?
It's a really neat technology too, so, I mean, simple but neat.
All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Next item is coming from Finance as well. Alderperson Schumacher.
All right, R 2022, preliminary resolution declaring intent exercise special assessment powers for 2022 street and sidewalk projects. So moved.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Reeves. Alderperson Schumacher.
Generally what we do ahead of street and sidewalk construction projects to be able to levy the special assessments with property owners for these sidewalk improvements, repairs, that sort of thing.
If I can just add one
Sure.
thing. This is just the first step. It puts in motion the process where the city engineer our consulting engineer will put together a report outlining the improvements and the special assessment schedule. Once that's completed and filed with the city, we prepare a public hearing notice that gets distributed to all affected property owners, and there would be a public hearing at the council level to consider that assessment schedule. I'd like to offer one friendly amendment to Exhibit A, or Attachment A. There's a segment of Roby Road between John Nygaard Virgin Lake Estates, or Virgin Lake Drive, and Kingsland Road that likely or could potentially be included in this year's project as associated with the sanitary sewer upgrade there. So that one block segment I'd like to see added as an amendment to Attachment A.
Okay. Did you catch that, Candy?
It's Roby Road between Virgin Lake Drive and Kingsland Road.
Okay, got it. Thank
All
you.
right, so we would probably need a motion to amend.
Move to amend.
Motion by Majewski, is there a second?
Second.
Who said the second? President Hirsch had the second. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. So that'll take us back to the original motion as amended. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. Okay, item number 13 is coming from Public Works. That would be Alderperson Majewski.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Resolution 44 of 2022. City participation in design costs for pedestrian/bicycle underpass on US Highway 51 between Rutland Dunn Town Line Road and County Highway B. And Public Works has approved, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Take your pick.
Who was online? That
That would be me.
Caravello? All right, we have to get some participation from those zooming in, so we'll give that one to you. Alderperson Majewski.
This is basically allowing the city to put forth its request for an underpass at 51 in the design phase of the DOT's upcoming upgrade of Highway 51.
Excellent. Anything you want to add, Director Shield?
Yeah, it really just affords us the opportunity to explore the design aspect of this project in potential incorporation into the majors project for 2026. If we didn't enter into this phase, the likelihood of the underpass ever really materializing would be greatly diminished.
All right, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in the favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. All right, the next item went through Public Works, and then it was at Finance tonight. Who wants this one?
I'll do it.
No,
I'll
it's
say
number
I'll take it.
15.
Who wants it?
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
This is Resolution 45 of 2022, approving the financial agreement between the state of Wisconsin and the city of Stoughton for costs associated with the reconstruction of US Highway 51 from Spring Road to 5th Street, scheduled to be constructed in 2025. Public Works is recommended for approval, and I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, second by Schumacher. Alderperson Majewski.
This is an agreement between city and state for improvements on 51 between said roads. And a big part of this is to upgrade lighting in the construction area from the basic DOT standard streetlight to something a little more decorative that will tie the front entrance of the entrance of the city into the downtown area.
Thank you. Anything you want to add, Alderperson Schumacher?
Finance also approved this one unanimously, and yeah, we just talked a little bit about the different crossings and that would be along that path, and then some of the lighting options that would be available, and the tying it all together, making it look like we don't have a patchwork.
All right, Director Shield.
Just to highlight, the council recently just took action on the utilities component of the same agreement, so this would wrap it up into a tight bow where all of us have agreed into the same agreement. Certainly anticipate future amendments to the agreement as the design gets refined over the next few years, but this is the initial agreement and outlines what we recommend is appropriate cost for the city to incur.
All right, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. All right, it's time for Public Safety, Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Resolution 46, 2022, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to appoint Brett Decker as an agent for Quick Trip number 739 at 517 West Main Street. The Public Safety Committee recommended approval on a 6-0 vote, and I so move.
Second. Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Jensen.
Self-explanatory. Chief Blackwood reviewed and no issues, so would recommend approval.
Any questions or comments on this one? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Item 16 is done. Item 17, Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item 17 is a resolution 48-2022, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve a temporary Class B retailer's license and special event license to Stoughton Chamber of Commerce for September 2022. Public Safety recommended approval on a 6-0 vote, and I so move.
Second.
Second by Alderperson Tukowski. Alderperson Jensen.
Again, it's just it's routine. We do this every year. There were no issues. Chief had no issues with it, so we didn't see any reason why not to approve it.
All right, and I think I see Callie joined us tonight. Anything you want to say, Callie?
Oh, okay. Hi, Kelly.
Hello. Nothing really outstanding to say. Thank you very much for taking time to review this and carrying back the tradition of Set the My Festival to its full glory this May 13 through 15, 2022. I'd also like to thank Bianca for representing the race day events portion of the run earlier this evening.
All right, any questions for Callie? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. The next one is also for Callie, Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's Resolution 49 of 2022, authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve a temporary Class B retailer's license and special event license to the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce for the Coffee Days Festival. Public Safety recommended approval on a 6-0 vote, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Jensen.
Again, no issues. Callie does her work, so recommend approval.
Excellent. Anything you want to add, Callie?
Thank you for reviewing this one as well. And excited to bring Coffee Break Festival back. It would be the 25th anniversary this year, so just some fun, more fun celebrations to happen.
Yeah, way to make me feel old. All right. Any questions or comments on this one?
And if you want to buy your mug, get there early.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And any opposed? That motion carries. Excellent. Item number 19, Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is Resolution 50 of 2022, resolution authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve a Class A liquor license for Ashley's LLC, Ashley Crick. Sorry, I might have butchered that. Agent for the premises located at 217 South 4th Street. Public Safety recommended approval and a 6-0 vote, and I so move.
Second.
Was that Alderperson Tukowski?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Alderperson Jensen?
Yep, were no issues. Clerk had everything tied up well, and the chief had no issues with it, so we recommend approval.
And you might recall this building was most recently the Montage.
Yeah.
Ashley's got a nice place there. She has some clothing. She has some gifts, and I think she's going to be selling, I'm going to call it specialty wine because I really don't know what's in it, but it looked delicious the day I was there anyway. Any questions or comments on this one?
I just had a question.
Alderperson Reeves.
So, the clothing and the wine made sense, but I'm wondering, is there actually a sauna? Is that part of the business operations? It was puzzling, so I was just curious. I don't know if she's on the line, but if it's part of the...
Curious about that too.
I don't know. Ashley, are you on here?
I don't see her.
Okay.
follow-up
I've been
question.
in there and there is a sauna there, but I haven't used it.
So is that,
But-
I guess and this is not related to the liquor license, I guess, but I don't know, is there I guess I'm just curious to know what the plan is for that. Is it going to be in use? Do you need a permit? It seemed, it was an interesting combination of product and services if that's there, so I was looking for more information about what the plan was.
If you'd like, I can follow up on that, but I know it's there. I don't know if there's anything in our zoning or that would require an additional permit for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that'd be zoning related. It might be food and beverage, or we'd have to look into it. I just don't know the...
What, would it be more recreational? Or, I mean, what do like tanning beds and saunas and hot, those fall under? It'd be under probably more like a tanning bed. So is there any licenses that?
There's not a specific zoning class. It fits into our commercial zoning class, so that's not a zoning type designation.
So I don't know if this is a question for Attorney Dragney. It sounds like this is not relevant for the liquor license, or is it before we approve a liquor license to know what the plan is for the building?
Well, I have to say I really don't know the background on this one, so it could be. I mean, there are some rules relating to whether you can. Is this a class A?
Yeah.
Yep, Class A liquor license.
Yeah.
I would suggest that if you have questions about whether there's a kind of a compatibility problem here, I think is the question. There is a statutory provision that I think applies to a Class A license that prohibits you from operating in other business and at the same time as you're operating, a licensed establishment. But I guess I just would need some time to review the application and the statute to know for sure how to analyze it. I just am not prepared to address it tonight.
Yeah, I think Candy had several conversations. Is she selling wine to go? Is that what it is?
Yes, bottled wine. And I did refer her to Michael in the zoning department. He did speak with her and he had no concerns. That's as far as it went
Okay.
for me.
So we can follow up on that question. I don't know if it's relevant to the liquor license or not. If you think it might be, we could postpone the vote till the next meeting.
Because they do have a sample bar, so it's not just selling on their map. So it's not just selling bottled wine and they're actually sampling it, according to their...
I would move to postpone until we could...
We can just table it
who's
till next
available
meeting.
to
Okay.
meet and answer a few questions.
Yeah.
I would feel more comfortable with that.
All right. So we have a motion by Reeves to postpone. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Hirsch. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Hopefully we'll see that in 2 weeks and we'll have an answer for you. Next item is also coming from Public Safety. Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's Resolution 51, 2022. A resolution authorizing and directing proper city officials to approve a Class B liquor and beer license for Working Title LLC, Benjamin, oh boy, I'm going to butcher this one too. Altish, I don't know. There you go, thank you. We'll go with that. Agent for the premises located at 324 South Water Street, and Public Safety recommended approval on a 6-0 vote, and I would so move. Second.
Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Jensen.
Yes, again, did not appear to be any issues. Chief was okay with it, and I don't believe Candy had any issues with it, so I would recommend that we approve.
All right. And you might recall, this is formerly the Naughty Norski is what this is. And it's going to be called the Water Street Tavern. Any questions or comments on this one?
Is he on? I had a general question, not necessarily about this, but is he available for us this evening?
Let's see. Who am I looking for here? Benjamin?
Yep.
I did not see him.
It's probably not. I was just curious if there was it looks like there might be another bar restaurant in Madison that they own. I was going to confirm that, but it's not.
I believe that was
really
brought up, and I believe that is true, that they...
On North Street, maybe?
I believe so, yes.
All right. Do you have any insight on that, Candy?
That part I do not know anything about.
Okay. All right. Obviously, the chief didn't say anything.
No.
All right. Is that something that you want?
No, I was just
Okay.
curious more than anything.
It
Thank
looks,
you, though.
if you look down, it closed
It's the tip top
in
tap.
February
Tip top.
of
Oh,
this
yeah.
year.
That's being redeveloped out there, isn't it? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. All right, that motion carries. Item 21 is Alderperson Jensen.
Thank you. Let's see, this is Resolution 52-2022, resolution authorizing and directing the proper city officials to approve a reserve Class B liquor and beer license for Dricky LLC, Jamie Bramsden, agent, for the premises located at 515 East Main Street. Public Safety recommended approval on a 6-0 vote, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Doom. Alderperson Jensen.
Okay, so this is same thing. There were no issues. I don't think Candy had any issues, and the chief did not. We would recommend approval.
All right. Which establishment was this one, Candy?
This is the Lagerette.
Okay, that's what I thought. So they
Yes,
they've
correct.
got a full-fledged liquor license then?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed, that motion carries. Item 23. This one didn't go through committee. I'll kind of introduce it, and then Rodney and Matt can chip in if they'd like. Basically, what we did is several months ago, we came here and you approved an agreement with the town of Rutland for access to put in the water line that would connect Kettle Park West, going to the north to 51 West, and part of that was that we agreed that we would redo the roads on Deer Point and Oak Opening Drive. We did meet with the township a couple times, had some follow-up meetings with the town chair and their city attorney, and based on that and conversations with our city attorney and with our insurance company, we basically went through and revised the agreement that you previously approved. So we're here again tonight asking for approval of the updated version. What did I miss?
Yeah, the only changes are, I don't know, Rodney, if you can scroll to the insurance. Is this the red line draft that we have up by chance? No?
No.
Okay. Go to section
Right here.
13. Yeah,
There
there
it
you
is.
go. Section 13A, the town's legal counsel requested the language that says that the additional insured coverage shall be primary and non-contributory and shall include a waiver of rights of subrogation as against the town. And then the last sentence, to the extent the city's liability policy includes a deductible, the city will pay the deductible. I believe those are all changes, or at least some of those are changes since the agreement you approved. We have reviewed this language with the city's insurance company and have been advised that the city can meet these requirements. As I understand it, the town has already signed this version of the agreement. I requested that they go ahead and sign it and said that I would present this to the council tonight and recommend approval. So unless there's a concern, this is the only change to the language that you approved at your last meeting.
Anything to add, Rodney?
No, I think it's important to recognize that their town council incorporated these changes. We've tried to review them to our satisfaction as well. The fact that they've signed it, really, this seems to be the last approval necessary for this to move forward.
All right. So any initial questions or thoughts? Otherwise, I guess I would entertain a motion to approve this revised agreement. There's a resolution in here.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Majewski and a second by President Hirsch. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. All right, so we're going to go to item number 26. And you might recall if, we had the storms on Saturday night, and we had meetings, called a meeting with Dane County Emergency Management on Monday morning to kind of review the events that occurred Saturday night. Obviously, there was a lot of damage over in mostly the western side of Stoughton, as well as a tornado that touched down in the town of Dunkirk down by Leslie Road. Based on the conversations that we had with Dane County Emergency Management team, as well as our team, we decided to go ahead and call an emergency in response so we could potentially try to recover some of our costs in order to restore power and haul away trees and all the things that we needed to do to clean up after the storm. We certainly are grateful that nobody got hurt, and we had a lot of assistance from other municipalities, which you might have saw in the press release. Thankful for the mutual aid, and most of the residents that could be restored were restored. There were some that had to have electrical work done on their homes yet that could not be restored right away, but at least from our end, certainly our crews worked as long and hard as they could to get all the electricity up and running. There's still some issues with some of the ATC poles. Interestingly enough, some of the same poles that were wiped out in the storm not too long ago in that same area. So I don't know what it is over there, but we're just thankful that nobody got hurt. So we did declare an emergency order, which needs to be ratified by the City Council in order to be in effect. And then we did also submit some preliminary numbers that we accumulated from our different departments that were called out to service this area, and we'll continue to have our conversations with Dane County Emergency Management about the events and whether or not there's likely that we'll get reimbursed from some of our expenses. So great effort by all the teams that came together. A lot of these people that come together for these emergencies have never even met each other, and yet they somehow figure out a way to get all the work done and did it safely. So we're incredibly impressed by the work by all the municipalities that chipped in. I certainly appreciate the extra work for the Dane County Emergency Management. They were Johnny on the spot. We called a meeting together really quickly and got all the key people on there so we could process and get it to you tonight. Anything you want to add from your end, Matt, as far as it's kind of a short notice to get it on the agenda? we tried to keep you at least up to date on what was going on. Things were kind of fast and furious, but here we are, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, we had, the clerk is required to present this to the council at the next meeting of the council after the declaration, and the council has the option to either ratify the declaration of a state of emergency or not. If it is not ratified, then it's no longer in effect. If it is ratified, then it remains in effect until March 31.
And so we finished drafting this morning, had quite a bit of help from Director Gillingham on this, and we ran it past Dane County Emergency Management, before we brought it here tonight to make sure that it met their specifications as far as the content and the dates and everything. So as far as we know, this is all we need to do at this time, and then we'll just continue to update them on our expenses as we get estimates. Rodney, you had a chance to at least look at some of our buildings, I think, today, didn't you?
Yeah, our people looked at a couple of things. We've got some cedar shake shingles at the senior center that have been torn up. We've had actually a large cooling unit on our city hall actually get pushed off its moorings. So we did have a few things. Roof vent or roof ridge vent at the fire department has to be replaced. Some fascia, different buildings. So we did have a few places where we've had some issues that we'll have to work through.
And then you might also recall in the press release, they're already picking up brush, and they'll continue to do so until the end of next week. But we encourage everybody to get the brush out on Monday because they're only going to go by there once. So if you don't have it out, they're probably not going to get back to it. If that doesn't work for people, they can certainly drop it off at our brush site, and they'll be happy to take that. And the hours are listed in the press release as well as on our social media and our website. A great effort by our public works crew as well. That's a lot of hard work moving trees, and we're having early conversations about how people are going to get trees replanted. And I'm understanding from phone calls I received that some of the insurance companies will insure the homes that were damaged in the buildings, but not necessarily for the removal and replacement of trees in the Milwaukee Street area. So we're trying to figure out what options there might be on that. So we're going to talk to our forester and see what our inventory looks like. We certainly aren't in a position to remove them. They have to, call a contractor and come in and do that. But certainly, our thoughts are with the people over there. Many of us were without power. Some were, without power for, I think I heard up to 19 hours in some cases. But even with considering what happened, I think that's a pretty good indication of, our system as well as our people that maintain our system. To be able to get everybody restored that quickly is pretty amazing. I don't think Director Weiss slept for 3 days. Any questions or comments on this? Otherwise, I guess we're looking for a motion to ratify it.
So moved.
Second.
You want it?
Motion by Venegas and a second by Jensen. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? None opposed. That motion carries. All right. Thank you. Let's see. We have one more item on here, and this is discussion and possible action to staff regarding 51 West development. And this is something we talked about earlier in finance. We got through most of it, but there is a need to go into closed session on this one. And I can see if I can find the language in here. Alderperson Schumacher, you want to take us into closed session?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to move into closed session pursuant Wisconsin statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Ozzy, I think it was.
Alderperson Doom. Any discussion?
Roll call.
No discussion? Yeah, Candy, we'll do this one by a roll call for closed session whenever you're ready.
Excuse me, Doom,
Aye.
Hiley,
Aye.
Hirsch,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
Mayeski,
Aye.
Reeves,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
Venegas,
Aye.
Tukalski,
Aye.
Caravello.
Aye.
That's 10 in favor.
All right, thank you. And before we do, I wanted to take a second just to introduce Dave Gillinger. He's our new finance director. He's on the call here. So are you going to join us in closed session? Excellent. So welcome. Hopefully it wasn't too painful to watch us go through a hybrid meeting. So thanks.
Not a problem at all.
Excellent. So we're going to go into closed session. Does anyone want to take a quick break?
Ooh, yeah.
All right. Take a quick break and then we'll be in closed session.
I had forgotten that
I was
they
for